Today, we're meeting a true master of the Matrix. It's someone who's spent years trying to understand the Matrix and who's come to understand that if you can get behind the rules of the Matrix, i.e. how it's holographic based and how it's fractal based, and if you can understand those rules, then you can actually become a true master. And so today we're here to interview Gregg Braden.
When we think about the idea of fractal patterns, historically we have thought of those patterns in terms of stuff, in terms of physical energy that in the events of our lives that we can see. My question as I began exploring this from a scientific perspective is if fractals are the patterns that describe the natural world as we know it, and if the natural world as we know it is truly cyclic, as our indigenous ancestors have said for thousands of years, what would happen if we marry those two principles together, the fractals of nature and the cyclic occurrence of those fractals? And the outcome of this is the idea now of fractal time. And perhaps the best way to understand a fractal time is to understand and think like an indigenous person in terms of cycles. Almost universally, ancient texts and traditions and the wisdom of our past tells us that we live in a universe of cycles, and cycles within cycles, nested cycles. Some of the cycles are obvious. The cycles of night and day, of course, we're all familiar with, or the cycles of the moon, or the 28 days of a woman's menstrual cycle. We're familiar with those. Some of the cycles occur on scales of time that are so huge, thousands of years, that no one living at the beginning of the cycle is living thousands of years later when the cycle completes. However, we still live the conditions of those cycles. So my thinking, my thought process was that if we could understand the nature of cycles in our lives, it would help to give meaning to what appear to many to be meaningless events that are happening in our lives today. The chaos of war, economic collapse, the tremendous poverty, the economic collapse, the environmental collapse that we're seeing in our world, in our lives today. And all of this has led to a study that we now encapsulate as fractal time.